All right. Can I have a minute of your time? I want to tell you a story uh, of something very profound that happened 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago now. And that is the story of Tatiana. So, my wife and I took our kids. My wife, and she serves on the board of executives for a humanitarian aid group and ministry. Tilt that back. People tell me my hair is my greatest asset, so I don't want to not show it all. Just kidding. My wife serves on the board of directors for or board of executives for a missionary and humanitarian aid group that works out of Honduras. So she goes there quite often to do some work. I'm typically left behind to work and keep going here with the office. And I had the opportunity to go this time. We even took our kids. We took our kids. I grew up doing missionary work in Haiti with my parents, and I figured it was time to take the kids. So we took the kids with us this time to have them experience what it's like to live in a different nation, a different scenario. So we took our kids, and we went to go check on. I didn't really go to do a tremendous amount of doctory, chiropractic type work. We went to go do mostly like Commodore work, which is feeding center work. We were going to check on a few schools that we partner with, check on a few sponsored children that needed attention, but mostly work on Commodores, which are again feeding places that we work with. So. We just began the ministry, the aid group that we work with, Faces of Dreams International. They've recently, partnered with a group way up in the mountains outside of Danlí in an area called Los Arcos. And Los Arcos is Spanish for, it means the rainbows. It's a beautiful little mountain. I say little, beautiful big mountain, but it's called the rainbows because it's a misty weather up there often, and it frequently rainbows. I'll tell you about the rainbow I saw in just a few moments. Anyways, I was there, and while we were there, we heard one of the little girls that we sponsor in the program through our work there to make sure she's fed and clothed. Her name is Tatiana, and she's 11. We heard that she was in a coma. She had fallen mysteriously in a coma. I believe it was Monday morning. She fell into a coma. Mother went to wake her up at about 8 a.m. and she was in a coma. Mother didn't know why. So as I was told, my Spanish is not perfect, but I was following what I could. And as I was told, she was walked down the mountain into the clinic, into the quote-unquote hospital, which is not much to speak of, but nonetheless what they consider a hospital. And she was told that her parents told her with no MRI, no CAT scan, no anything of that nature, no EEG that she had. The reason she was in a coma is that she had a brain tumor, and that they should take her home and keep her as comfortable as they're able because she would die. And they said, but if she's alive, again, this is on like July the about 16th or so, and they said, but if she's alive in October, we'll get her an MRI. We'll get her to the city, to Tegucigalpa, and we will get her an MRI, which is just a silly consideration. That's a couple months away, and that she's supposed to go home and die of this brain tumor in the meantime, and B, that they could get to Tegucigalpa. I mean, that's a 2.5 hour car ride in very treacherous terrain. They don't have a car. They don't have access to a car, so it would do. There's just an absolute pitiful joke to consider that she could get to Tegucigalpa to get an MRI in 2 or 3 months after she's already supposed to be dead for this brain tumor. So her parents walked her back up the mountain, took her back home, and put her in bed to rest, unresponsive still from the coma. We arrived about 3 days later at the start of the third day of her coma. We walked in. I wasn't even expecting to really see her. We went there to do to check on the family, see if they needed food or things of the like. I walked in, and they started talking about how the doctors had provided them no answers. That they said it's probably a brain tumor. She'll probably die. Take her home, and God bless you. That's all we have for you. So they took her home, and we arrived 3 days later. And they started asking questions about brain tumors and stuff, and thank God I knew the answers to the questions. So I asked if it would be okay if I took a look at her. So I arrived, and in the corner of the room in this shack that's about the size of our adjusting room here at the office, not much to speak of, kind of a dirt floor shack scenario. We went to the corner of the room, and she was laying on a bed, unresponsive, facing the other way. So we rolled her toward me, spun her around, and pulled her head towards me, and I knelt down, and I remember telling the Lord, Father, this one's going to have to be you. I don't have any medical equipment whatsoever. I'm not super up to date on my comatose physiology. I don't treat patients daily in comas, and so I remember saying, Father, this one's going to have to be you. And I knelt down, and I have a picture here I'll show you that my wife took. I didn't even know until just a few days ago. Let's see if I can get it in focus here. This is a picture of me kneeling down next to the bed, if you can see that, kneeling down next to the bed. And those are my hands there. You can see my thumb. That's my hand next to Tatiana, wrapped around her neck. And what I was doing was I thought, you know what? I tell you what we can do. If she's in a coma, it's neurological. I'll tell you what, let's take our flashlight, our handy dandy little cell phone flashlight, and let's check her pupils to see if we can get a response out of her pupils. Well, I did so. The right side very responsive, left side completely non-responsive. Had what we call pinpoint pupils. They're completely locked down pupils that are just completely constricted and contracted, and they don't move. And that should not happen if you take a cell phone light and stick it within an inch or two of the eye. Look beautiful on the right, completely absent on the left. I then asked, I need something to check her reflexes, but again, I was unprepared for this. I didn't have anything with me. I asked for a stick or a spoon or a piece of anything that I could, try to elicit a reflex with. And her mama gave me a big old like soup spoon, a big old like tablespoon. So I'm knelt down checking her name is Tatiana's reflexes with a soup spoon. And I am checking her pupil reactions with a cell phone flashlight. So again, beautiful reflexes on the right, what we call +2, which is normal. And then what we call a 0 on the left. They're absent. There's nothing there. Very, very, very concerning. For that. And so I checked a few extra things to save you the geeky stuff, and it became very apparent that her brainstem on the left was not getting the oxygen that it needed to get, like the right hand side. The right side was getting beautiful oxygen, the left side obviously was not. So I knelt down again now, and she was, and I adjusted her occiput, which is the bone, the skull bone that attaches to the top of the neck right here. And I then did some extra work with her to address trying to get more oxygen into the left side of her brainstem, which is chiropractors know, or at least should know how to do. And so I adjusted her, and we worked for a few more minutes on her and with her to try to get more oxygen to her brainstem. And I will show you, and I have witnesses, I promise. I have a room full of witnesses that can corroborate this. This is about 5 or 7 minutes later. That, my friends, is Tatiana. She's absolutely gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. You can see that little bit of a cross eye she had left over. So she wasn't neurologically perfect yet, but she was sitting up and asking for food. You gotta remember, she hasn't eaten in 4 days, and they don't have like enteral nutrition or parental nutrition. There's no way to feed her if she can't open her mouth and eat. So she obviously was very hungry. So the second she sat up from becoming responsive, you can see, there it is right there. There's me hugging Tatiana on her quote unquote bed in Honduras. I didn't even know these pictures existed until my wife showed me. Here she is, where she became at least erect, but she was still very unresponsive. You can't appreciate in the video through the computer just how unresponsive and zombie-like she was even at this state. And I'm trying to explain in my broken Spanish to the parents what's happening and what I'm seeing and what we need to do to fix it. So anyways, so before we left, my son, Caleb, you guys know Caleb. Everybody knows Caleb. If you don't, you shouldn't. Coolest kid ever. He wanted to pray for Tatiana. So here is a picture of the translator and Caleb. You can see the translator's hand praying for Tatiana right there. You can see her getting prayed for a miracle, that her miracle be sustained by Caleb. And if I can, I don't know if it'll do it, but look how beautiful. Look how breathtakingly beautiful Tatiana is. Look how pretty. gorgeous young lady, and just the sweetest personality you could ever imagine. I was super humbled and blown away and thankful that the Lord had been so gracious and so kind. But I'll show you who was the most grateful. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, who's the most grateful for Tatiana's miracle in the mountains. And that's Mama. Mama is the one that's most grateful. Mama was so grateful that the Lord had provided her answers for her child. Now, so I came back the next day. We bid them well, and I gave Tatiana a big hug, and she walked outside with us after 3 or 4 days of having been in a coma. And we fed her, and we went outside. My son prayed for her. We left. As I was pulling away, I told my kids to look back, because right over her home was the most beautiful full rainbow. Absolutely breathtaking. The promise of the Lord. We got there the next morning. We had some business to attend to in the city that morning fairly early. So Mike Patton, who is the director of Faces of Dreams International, the founder, who's a missionary on the ground there in Honduras, who's from here but lives there, took me up there. We traveled back up the mountain way too early for me. I was still half asleep for most of it. And guess who met me at the door? Tatiana met me at the door, because she was excited for our arrival. And guess what she gave me? She met me and she said, "Para usted." That means, this is for you. She gave me this painting, this beautiful painting that she had painted for me of a tree and a bush and a butterfly and some clouds on a hill. And she signed it for me. I told her, I said, "Necesito su nombre aquí." I need your name here. I need your name here. So she wrote for me, Tatiana. So she painted this beautiful picture for me. And I'll frame that and never, Lord willing, lose it and keep it forever. So we talked to her and adjusted her again and cared for her, and she continued to do well. She needed food, so we got her plenty of food. And Mama was very quiet that morning. Mama was very quiet that morning. She didn't say much that morning. And we asked her why in Spanish, why are you being so quiet? Is everything okay? And she said very quietly, she said, "Hoy es el día." And she kind of was looking down, very withdrawn, and she said, "Hoy es el día." And I asked her, I said, "Hoy es el día, ¿por qué, mamá?" She said, "Hoy es el día," that means today is the day. And I said, "Hoy es el día, ¿por qué, mamá?" That means today is the day for what? Because of what? Why? Why? Today is the day for what, mama? And she said, "I have resisted God for my entire life, but I owe him for the answers." And she looked up and she looked at myself and Mike that was with me sitting to my right, and she said, "Will you teach me to pray?" So we took Mama's hand and we prayed with her, and she received Christ as a Savior. And then we rejoiced together and then left her a bunch more food and water so that she could care for Tatiana. I have been given daily updates from someone in the city there in Danlí who has a cell phone. Pictures and updates of her being at the Commodore. She walked down the mountain to the Commodore to be fed. Monday of this week, she re-enrolled in school and is back in school, which is fantastic. So she's alive, she's well, she's flourishing, she's playing and running in the field like the other kids are, and she's back in school, and she's eating, and she's doing everything that she should do at 11 because of the miracle that God allowed through chiropractic care on this young lady. So what a privilege, what an honor to be a part of it. Many of you have asked to hear the story. I know we're coming up on about 14 and a half minutes, so longer story perhaps than most, but it deserves the details they deserve to be told. So I hope it blesses you. I hope you're encouraged. I hope you like Tatiana's beautiful artwork that she provided for me with her signature. Now it's worth something, Tatiana. So anyways, if you have any questions about it, reach out. I'd love to answer them. I'll try to keep you updated. If you want to see pictures or anything of the updates, I'm happy to share them because she's doing remarkably well. So God bless you. I'm here to help if I can. But I pray that today you would give God praise and appreciation for the miracle that He allowed to happen in the mountains for Tatiana. So be blessed. I love you.